It's time! And now, introducing your host, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Boston, Massachusetts, presenting live,
the Bostonian versus the Book. Follow the show on Twitter at Boston versus the Book.
Here he is, Matt Perrault!
Enjoy the show, enjoy the show, enjoy the show, enjoy the show.
What's up, Brigade? How are you? Welcome into a Wednesday episode of the Bostonian versus the Book, BvB, as we call it. My name is Matt Perrault, live on our YouTube and our X at Boston versus the Book. We're replayed on Sports Grid TV each and every weeknight at about 10 p.m. Pacific time, 1 a.m. Eastern time, and audio podcasts wherever you guys get your audio podcasts. Today, we're going to talk about college basketball. It is that time of the year. Let's get into the opening line, a bit about conference tournaments versus the NCAA tournament and what is about to happen really today for the next 2 weeks, I think is a better betting opportunity than the NCAA tournament. I think there are better targets. I think there are better bets to be made in the next 2 weeks than there will be for the NCAA tournament. I will explain it coming up here in the opening line. Then we'll get to football. Kyler Murray, he is going to be made available, but it's not just about Kyler Murray now. A.J. Brown, that market is starting to heat up. The Eagles are asking for a first and a second for A.J. Brown. The Chiefs have traded away their best cover cornerback today for a first-round pick. We'll get into that deal. The Cowboys, they freed up $66 million by restructuring multiple contracts here, and now the Cowboys are in the market in the free agency situations coming up on March the 11th when the free agent frenzy begins here with the NFL. We'll jump down the rabbit hole talking college basketball from our friends at Rabbet. We will look at Ohio, Miami of Ohio. What are they doing with the 30-0 record? Historically speaking, what have teams done going into the NCAA tournament with a record in the regular season of 30-0 or better? We haven't seen many of them. Miami beat Toledo last night. They are 30-0 in the regular season. That is unbelievable. So we'll get to that as we jump down the rabbit hole, and then we will give bets and plays coming up a bit later on. College basketball, one game with two bets that I want to break down coming up later on today for that coming up. CWH 1138. You're going to Hinkle? There's an NBA game tonight at Hinkle? I didn't know that. Go see Kalkbrenner play? All right, let's go. That's going to be fun. So, you're watching Creighton. Ryan Kalkbrenner plays for the Hornets. Just FYI. He's in the NBA. He was with Creighton last year, but not this year. So, look, the Jays would be in the tournament if they had Ryan Kalkbrenner, but they don't. He's now, in the league, making a lot of money. But enjoy watching that tonight. It's senior day at Hinkle for the Creighton Blue Jays and the Butler Bulldogs tonight as we look forward to the Big East tournament coming up later on at the end of the week, or I guess right next week, right? So starting in the middle of next week for that. So I just ruined his day. Sorry. Sorry. Didn't mean to ruin the day, but yeah, he's an NBA player now. He's no longer with the Jays. I wish he was with the Jays, to be quite honest. It would be awesome if he was with the Jays, but he is not. Guys, reminder, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go and do that at Boston versus the Book. We're trying to jack that number up. I'm having all sorts of conversations with people, and we're hoping to get some things announced in the next couple of weeks. It's been busy. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of things going down, a lot of stuff happening right now behind the scenes. So hopefully have some news and notes and announcements and fun stuff coming up. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, leave a comment, all the fun stuff that everyone gets asked to do here. If you're watching on Sports Grid, do me a favor and go on over and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Boston versus the Book. We begin the program with the opening line. Looking at betting now, conference tournaments in a couple of weeks, NCAA tournament, which is the better target-rich environment? I'll give you my opinion in the opening line. So let's talk about it here. We have a litany of games starting middle of the day. Non-conference games are gone. It's all conference tournaments, conference games, and now into the conference tournament to win an at-large bid. Which one has a better, a more target-rich environment? The bets that we can make in the conference tournaments or the bets we can make for the NCAA tournament? What are we going to see? Well, get a load of that bracket from Yahoo Sports. This is the schedule from now until Selection Sunday coming up on March the 15th. Look at all of the conference schedules that are going to be conference tournaments that are going to be played. Today, we have the Atlantic Sun, which is going to be fun. The Sun Belt gets going, and we talked about yesterday with the Sun Belt Conference, what crazy bracket that thing is. We've got the NEC. Could Merrimack wind up the Summit? The OVC, that's happening today. Same thing tomorrow. Then on March the 6th, we have, or I guess tomorrow too, the West Coast Conference Tournament gets going tomorrow here in Las Vegas. And then we get the CAA Tournament. Then the South, the Sun Belt, no, the Southern Conference Tournament. Then the SoCon Tournament. Then we get into the America East Tournament on March the 7th. We start getting the Big Sky action, the MAC, MAAC going after it, the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament in Arch Madness, and the championship games on Sunday. We have 4 of them where 4 tickets get punched on Sunday for the NCAA tournament. Then next week, the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, all the big boys all get going, all taking you to Saturday and Sunday where we see all the tickets being punched for the NCAA tournament and the big guys on Sunday as well for the NCAA tournament. Here is my take about the conference tournament and why I love betting the next 2 weeks. In a lot of ways, I think it's a much better bet than what we will do for the NCAA tournament. The NCAA tournament is an unbelievable experience. If you are a college basketball fan, if you've never come to Las Vegas for the opening round of the NCAA tournament, it is a bucket list thing that you have to do. I've been here 10 years. I've done it multiple times. We've done live shows. We've done, I've done different appearances. I've done a lot of stuff for the tournament for what will happen here on March, 17th and 18th, I think the dates are for the first and second rounds, that Thursday, Friday for the NCAA tournament. You have 32 games, 16 games on Thursday, 16 games on Friday. You've got 8 games on Saturday and 8 games on Sunday. It is an absolute blast. It is gambling, peak gambling opportunities. But everyone is doing that across the country. Everyone is betting the NCAA tournament. Not every game. Some people bet every game, but everyone is eyeballing. Everyone's betting futures. Everybody is betting in-game. Everyone is watching the NCAA tournament. Productivity in this country goes way down. It's the best thing we do as a country. I have been on that opinion for a long time. You can have the Super Bowl. If you are asking me, which am I going to choose? I only can take one, the Super Bowl or March Madness. I'm taking March Madness every single time. More games, more stories, more drama, more fun over the course of 3 weeks, and it involves more people. Why? Well, No Name Directional State is playing in the tournament. And when that team is playing, every single TV in that town is glued to the game. Where, yes, the Patriots and the Seahawks, Boston people and Seattle people were glued to the game. But for a lot of people, it's on in the background. They're having Super Bowl parties and they're doing other things, or they're pissed off about who's performing at the halftime show, whatever it might be, right? There's all these different things that go into that game. The NCAA tournament, small town, middle America, small college town gets put on the map. People start talking about schools that they have no idea where they're located, but they make people pay attention. It is awesome. It's on during the day on top of that, which I love. nothing's better than a great sporting event on at like 3:00 in the afternoon. It's so great on a Thursday, right? You get to cut out of work a little early. You go grab beers with people in the office. There is nothing better. The bracket that you'll do, the people at the front desk go ahead and make up all the brackets and they go ahead and distribute it. Everyone's paying their $25 bracket fee, right? I mean, that's awesome. You can tease the guy in accounting because he stinks. He came in last place. It's awesome. It is absolutely awesome. However, from a betting perspective, it's just not that good of a thing to bet on. Why? It's super sharp. For the conference tournaments, we have data that we don't get for the NCAA tournament. We have actual head-to-head data for these teams. We also have historical data to take a look at. What has happened? If you guys have been with me for a long period of time, you know how I feel about Arch Madness and the way I look at Arch Madness. And I don't really get involved tonight with Arch Madness. Like I don't always jump around into tonight for Arch Madness because, you can bet it for, it'll start here on the 5th. It'll start tomorrow, right? So the games tomorrow, the first games tomorrow normally are unders. They normally are. Not always, but they're normally unders. It's a historical bet I have made over the years for the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament, looking at the game because it gets played on a Thursday at about noontime local time in St. Louis. And there's 1,000 people in the building at Scott Trade Center. No one's there. So it's just not that great of an atmosphere. And normally it's two bad basketball teams, right? They know they're not going into any postseason. This is the end of their season. They lose and their year is over. You get to Arch Madness. So having that historical data, I think, is incredibly important when it comes to gambling. And we don't have that. Like, I'm a trend better, okay? People have their own ways of betting. I like betting trends. Does it help? Kinda. It's more like a blanket. It makes you feel better. Like if you like the under and there's a historical trend to the under, okay, you feel better about betting the under, but it doesn't really matter for that given day. We're betting on human beings to do human beings things, which is, let's predict what the future will look like based on past performances. It has no bearing. In reality, it's just a blanket to make yourself feel better, right? When it comes to gambling. But I would rather have that blanket than not, okay? I'd rather fall asleep with the blanket on than not. So that's when I'm betting. Give me the blanket rather than not. So having that historical data, we don't get that with the NCAA tournament because half the time these teams are playing, they've never played ever. Or if they've played, it happened like when your grandfather was growing up or I was growing up. It was a long time ago. The kids that play in the uniform for that given day in the NCAA tournament, there's nothing that you can use to help you break it down. When Michigan plays against Central Florida, it's like the last time Michigan played Central Florida was, I'm pulling the number out of my head, but in March of 2002, when all these kids who are playing in this game were not born yet. So what does that matter from a handicapping standpoint? It doesn't. We have data off these teams who have sometimes played 2 times. So I think when you have 2 times, you have 2 matchups that you can look at. You're like, all right, it helps you handicap. For instance, this is just 2 different markets that I pulled from BetCris Arizona. The top is the Missouri Valley and the bottom is the Sun Belt, right? You look at Troy and Marshall, that's the 1 and the 2 seed. They don't play for like a month, right? We talked about that bracket yesterday. Those 2 guys having a quintuple bye or a 5x bye, a 5-time bye, whatever that number is. Quintuple is, quintuple, 5. A quintuple bye for Troy and Marshall. You can bet both those guys, by the way, for 1 unit. And if they win, they play each other and they win, you're guaranteed profit, by the way. Troy at plus 160, Marshall at 2-1. That's a guaranteed profit. It's not a lot, but it's a guaranteed profit as long as somebody else like App State or Arkansas State doesn't get hot. You've got, those 2 teams that are going to be set up to play each other. You bet them both, and you're guaranteed profit with 1 unit on either side of the Sun Belt tournament winner. So you can bet that because we have historical data. We know what's going to happen. We can see how it plays out. Is what the conference wants. The conference most likely is going to get it. On the flip side, you have Belmont, who we talked about 2 days ago, about them being a potential Cinderella. in the tournament. Northern Iowa is a little bit further back, but you get plus money on Belmont to win the A10 tournament, and Belmont needs to most likely win the A10 tournament to get into the dance. Their resume is not very good. We talked about it previously. So taking them to win Arch Madness is not awful, but you get some really nice prices if you go down the line. If you like an Illinois State, which I know there was people in the chat a couple days ago, they were loving on the Redbirds. That's a good price, 4-1 on Illinois State to win that, to win Arch Madness. So you've got some markets there that with historical data and with the information about the regular season, about who they could wind up be playing, you can then factor it out. You have a lot more to play with. Plus, people aren't betting the Sun Belt heavy. People aren't betting Missouri Valley Conference basketball heavy. The professionals are, but the public is not. So the lines can be a little bit squishier and softer for these conference tournaments. So while everybody is gearing up and loading up to go and chuck a ton of money at the NCAA tournament, this is when you should be betting. Thank you. It's the Enterprise Center now. Sorry, I'm old, Ryan. Okay, sorry. There's a couple things in my brain that will never change. The Chi Center in Omaha will always be the Quest Center in my head. It'll always be the Quest Center. And Scott Trade Center, the Enterprise Center, will always be the Scott Trade Center. Like, that's just where it will always be in my brain. So it's good marketing for Scott Trade. It's bad marketing for Enterprise. But Enterprise is based in St. Louis, and it's the Enterprise Center. So thank you for the correction for Arch Madness. But yes, March Madness is for the casual sports bar betting person. Yes, just who happens to stumble their way into a bracket or a game. And they're like, oh, right, the NCAA tournament is being played. But here's the thing that people don't realize about the NCAA tournament. It is a totally different animal when you walk into a tournament game. And most of these tournament games are now played in domes. So I'll never forget the first time I went to see an NCAA tournament game. Remember Larry Hughes? Anybody remember Larry Hughes with St. Louis? So UMass, my junior year, UMass made the NCAA tournament. They made the Final Four my freshman year, but I wasn't covering in the media yet. I was still just watching. But by the time I was a junior, I was broadcasting, and I called the game. I called UMass's NCAA tournament game. Larry Kettner was the UMass. He's now passed away, unfortunately. But Larry Kettner was the star player for UMass, taking on St. Louis. And St. Louis beat UMass. That's the game, if you remember the story, that's the game where I got pulled over in North Carolina doing 110 in the middle of the night in a 65-mile-per-hour zone. And the cop asked me what I was doing, and I told him, and then he told me to go back into his squad car, and we ended up talking college basketball for 30 minutes, and he did not give me a ticket. That's that story. That was that trip. So we drove down 19 hours straight from Amherst, Mass to Atlanta, and then called the game the next day, and then drove 19 hours back through the night to get back. When you walk in, I told the story. When you walk in, it's just gigantic dome. Ashley Judd, these are all stories coming together. But remember the Ashley Judd story? Ashley Judd, Kentucky was playing in the same pod. Kentucky was playing in the game before UMass. And Ashley Judd walked into the press room. It wasn't even a press room. It was like this partitioned off space. And Ashley Judd was wearing skin tight leather pants and a half shirt Kentucky jersey, like one of those jerseys that were like half, you know what I mean? Like showing the midriff. And she was wearing high heels, and she did not have a press pass. She just walked directly into the press room, got drinks, got all the information, got the stat sheets that she wanted, and she walked back to her seat, and nobody said a word. Like, everybody just watched Ashley Judd, and like she did whatever the hell Ashley Judd wanted to do in Atlanta, Georgia. She got to do whatever she wanted to do during that game. Kentucky won the game. But that's a handicap that you can't adjust for. If a team has never been in that environment before, you can your eyes bulge out of your head. You're like, what the hell is going on? It is such a different environment. It is such a quick environment. Like, you can't believe how fast the games go because there's so much excitement and so much anticipation that, like, you've played all year to get to the tournament, and you're in the NCAA tournament, this incredible atmosphere. There's bands all over the place. There's celebrities and stars, and oh my gosh, I got to play basketball. So how teams handle it, that's why upsets happen so often. Because if you're there to win, and if you're there for business, not anything else, you have a huge psychological advantage over the team you're playing. and I've seen it. I saw it numerous times in my career. I've just seen it. The tournament puts teams in positions they've never been in before, up against teams they would never face, and styles they've never seen before. You can run the scout team all you want, but until you see Ben Jacobson's teams from Northern Iowa and you go and play that team actually on a game, it's like, holy crap, I don't know what's going on. I will never forget. And yes, Ali Farouk Banesh's shot is the most famous shot I've seen in person. Ali's been on this show a ton of time. Now he's the head coach of Colorado State. He was the assistant coach when he appeared on the show last year. We'll get Ali back at some point. Maybe even we'll get him on the show for next week. But like, he is a guy who will tell you that Kansas did not know what was coming. They knew, Northern Iowa knew that they were going to beat Kansas because Kansas wasn't prepared for what Northern Iowa was going to do to them. And when you're a team like that from a mid-major, you think this is going to be easy. KU thought it was easy work to play Northern Iowa. And then they got beat as the number 1 seed overall. They got beat by Northern Iowa. And you could just see it on the court. One team was completely prepared for anything the other team was going to do. And one team didn't know what side was right or what side was left. And that was coaching and preparation. And big shot making and big balls of taking big shots like Ali Farouk. So much more difficult than we think for the tournament, because psychologically, how these teams handle the pressure, how they handle the environment, who is in that locker room talking to these kids. I don't know how we do it with NIL. I don't know how we do it with transfer portal news and notes. These kids, half the kids are on their way out. Half the kids think they're going somewhere else next year, or more than half the kids think that. So that factors in. Give me the conference tournaments. Give me the next 2 weeks. I think the next 2 weeks are going to be absolutely awesome from a betting perspective. I love the dance. The dance, great. It's super fun. But if I'm picking between the tournament and the conference tournaments, give me the conference tournaments. Give me these next 2 weeks of betting college basketball. It's going to be super fun as we get the big boys going next week. But the mid-majors, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's a lot of opportunity there as well to make some money betting. Let's talk some football. All right, let's talk about what happened last night. We'll start with college basketball, and then we'll get to football. First, a tip of the cap to Arizona State and to Bobby Hurley, who might be on the way out. Bobby Hurley's been at Arizona State for 11 years. Bobby Hurley pulled off another upset last night by beating, in second consecutive games, beating top 15 opponents. First time that's happened in forever for Arizona State, beating KU by 10 points last night. Court storm for Bobby Hurley, court storm for Arizona State. They'll go needing a miracle in Kansas City. If Bobby Hurley does not take Arizona State to the NCAA tournament, his contract is up at the end of the year, and he's probably on the way out for the Duke point guard who's had a hell of a career. His brother obviously has had more success on the national stage, but Bobby Hurley has had an incredible college basketball career, both playing and coaching at Arizona State, and his team clearly is playing hard for him here at the end of the season. Huge win last night up against KU. So we'll see what the future holds for Hurley, but Arizona State, not a team I want to play in Kansas City. They're playing hard for their coach at the moment. If you are a Chief fan, you kind of look away. They're trading their star cornerback, Trent McDuffie, to the Rams for picks, including a first-round pick here. Patrick Mahomes tweeted one word, damn, most likely in reference to the Trent McDuffie trade here as the best cover corner for the Chiefs. Gets traded. He's 25 years old. He was the 2022 first round pick by the Chiefs out of Washington. He was the part of two teams that won the Super Bowl. He's a two-time All-Pro at cornerback. Last year, he played in 13 games, had a pick, had a sack, and 63 total tackles. And now he's headed to the LA Rams. And, well, sometimes teams tell you what they're thinking about the future, and the Chiefs are planning for the future. The Chiefs aren't playing for today. The Chiefs are playing for 2 years from now. And I think there's going to be a big adjustment by Chief fans as to what 2026 is going to look like. We don't know what Patrick Mahomes is going to look like when he comes back, and we don't know when he is going to come back. Trading away Trent McDuffie for a first-round pick tells me that they recognize that 26 is probably not their year, and 27 probably is. So now it's about building for the future. It's about finding the next piece that's going to come in. And if you have a 25-year-old that's a high-value pick, high-value player, having a Trent McDuffie sitting and playing for you next year doesn't really help. You might as well trade that player. They're doing the opposite of what the Raiders are doing. I like what the Chiefs do. I like that trade personally. It just indicates to me where KC sees themselves in the future. They see next year as a bridge year, and then 27, let's get going for 2027. It does make me wonder about Travis Kelce as to what his intentions are going to be. I really wonder, if you're Travis Kelce, do you want to be a part of a rebuild? Like, do you want to be part of a team that's going to be having a bridge year? I'm not so sure I would be part of that. Want to be part of that. Get married and retire. I think everybody feels like Kelce should walk. I don't know why he is contemplating playing, but if Mahomes comes back, I guess you could say, well, look at what the Celtics were able to do. They're 40-20. They held serve until Tatum came back. And once the playoffs begin, well, then you can go win a championship. So I guess you could say he believes Mahomes will come back and be highly effective, which we think he's going to be. Obviously, at his age, he's only 30 years old, and this is an injury that players come back from all the time. So as long as Mahomes comes back and is some version of Patrick Mahomes at the end of next year, then maybe it is worth playing and hopefully the team can be a 500 team or a bit better than that, get a wild card, and then get into the postseason and do damage when Mahomes comes back. It's a big question. There's a lot of ifs in that factor, and it could go south for Kansas City pretty quickly. Without Patrick Mahomes, you could lose a bunch of games early, and then what happens? If you open up 1-4, 1-5, if you're the Chiefs, do you want to be a part of that? If you're Kelce and company, like, is your focus going to be there, or is it going to be on your new wife? So I think that's going to be a very interesting situation as to how it plays out with the Chiefs. But I think that trade does tell you a bit as to where they are mentally and what they're thinking about. The Cowboys are thinking about right now. The Cowboys have reworked Dak Prescott's contract, CeeDee Lamb's contract, and others, and they are now under the cap. They were $55 million over. Now they're $66 million that they cut out $66 million to get under the cap, and now they might be a player in free agency. Now they might be looking to actually add, which is somewhat surprising. They might be able to go ahead and, have some options in free agency. Jerry Jones said last week that he plans to do just that they want to go and find defensive players to come in and help the Kenny Clarks and the Quentin Williams, the deals that they made at the end of last year, which may have been a little bit too little too late for the Cowboys, because defensively they were a much better football team. We know what they do offensively. We know how good Dallas is on offense. So now you have a chance with Dallas as they play here with, Dak, top 10 quarterback, CD, top 5 wide receiver. Offensive line needs a little work, not going to lie, but they're going to score. They're going to put points on the board. Can they stop anybody? Quentin Williams came in and shored up the run defense, and that was a difficult team to run on at the end of the year, and it's why the Cowboys almost snuck their way into the playoffs. So now they're going to invest some more money. Most likely it's going to be an edge rusher. I still can't believe that they wouldn't get involved with Max Crosby. That just seems like a very easy trade for the Cowboys to make, to bring in Max Crosby. But if you are a draft expert or someone who pays attention to draft experts, you know that this draft is extremely deep for edge rushers. So maybe the Cowboys feel like they can draft an edge rusher to come in and help the team, and they don't need to give up any capital or pay a player like Max Crosby. You get a rookie contract of a player who could come in and be highly effective. So I would expect the Cowboys to be active there to go ahead and get an edge rusher in the draft. But they've got money. So now from being kind of cap strapped, now they've got some flexibility with the salary cap to add talent in a trade if they were to go ahead and do that. Some have said this is going to be you open up this window with Max Crosby available. So you restructure and then you trade for Max Crosby. It makes perfect sense. The Cowboys landing Max has always felt like a very natural move for Jerry Jones to make. So if that's in the cards, let's see it. It's a very big deal, big typical move for Jerry Jones. Big splash, right? He loves to make headlines. Getting Max Crosby would be huge. What are they going to give up for him is the question, obviously. The Cowboys, 2 first-round picks. Are you doing that? Because the asking price for Max has been pretty high. Equally for A.J. Brown. We learned yesterday that A.J. Brown, that the Eagles want a first-round pick and a second-round pick per the NFL Network. I can tell you, for a guy who's 28 years old, who is a highly productive wide receiver, who has had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, I don't know who's given up that much for A.J. Brown. Like that, you can ask for whatever you want to ask for. You can ask for $1 million and someone can say yes or no. But a first-round pick and a second-round pick seems to be extremely rich for A.J. Brown. And I don't think the Patriots were sort of like the natural fit. I don't think the Patriots are going to do that deal. I really don't. I think that's too expensive for the Patriots to go ahead and do that. And I apologize if you hear the landscapers. They're not supposed to be here, but they're here because that's my life these days. No one does anything that they're supposed to do. But I look at it as and go, okay, so what is the bigger picture for A.J. Brown if it's not the Patriots? Well, there's going to be other suitors, obviously, that could be out there for an A.J. Brown. He's got 3 years left on his contract. But again, after June 1st, the cap hit is so much less to the Eagles. So it does seem like it would make more sense for this to be a later type of deal unless somebody comes in and just hammers them with a deal. That's not going to be the Patriots. Patriots aren't going to do a ridiculously large trade for A.J. Brown. A first round and a second round pick is way too rich for New England. So if it's not New England, you start moving over and going, okay, who else is in the market and who else would be willing to part with that type of draft capital to acquire A.J. Brown? And again, it's better to do it before the draft, clearly, more value there, but it really hurts from a dead cap number Eagles perspective to trade him before June 1st. So that's kind of the question as to whether or not they actually would go ahead and do that. I think we're in for next week going to be crazy. It's going to be wild because we didn't talk about Kyler Murray really all that much, but that market with Kyler Murray is going to be extremely interesting. We found out that the Cardinals and the Panthers are going to play in the Hall of Fame game. So that's going to happen. So that's exciting. I don't know what the Alec Pierce market is going to be for the former Colt wide receiver. He's going to become a free agent, and the team is deciding. I don't know how you Colt fans feel about this. They have franchise tagged their quarterback, which is why you'd want the franchise tag with Daniel Jones. But by franchising Daniel Jones, you are letting Alec Pierce walk. And yes, Brendan's asking, is he a Patriot wideout? Or yes. I mean, Alec Pierce 100% is a Patriot target. Although it is really odd, and I don't really like it, but I get why, that every time a white wide receiver is available, that the Patriots are automatically tied to that player. But the Patriots do like taking Colt players and turning them into really talented, household names. I don't know if Alec Pierce is a guy who fits for what Josh McDaniels wants to do. They need more than him, but getting him would be a very nice upgrade for the position because, well, the Patriots have nobody. Like Stephon Diggs, I don't believe he's coming back. I think they're going to cut Stephon Diggs. And then who's left? Like, I like Mac Hollis, but he's a blocking guy downfield. He's a nice 4 or 5 type wideout. They need an upgrade at the tight end position, even though I do like Austin Hooper. I think they're going to have to make some changes there. So there's a lot of different things happening here for the Patriots wideout-wise. Alec Pierce would be a nice addition, but he can't be the only addition. A.J. Brown will be the guy that you want, right? A.J. Brown is the ultimate, but chances are that's not going to happen for the Patriots. Alec Pierce could be a more realistic target for the Patriots to acquire him, but they need a lot more than just him. Breece Hall is interesting-ish from the Jets because he can still leave. That was the tag they used for him is that he's going to make $14.2 million next year, guaranteed, either from the Jets or somebody else. So somebody else can offer Breece Hall more than $14.2 million and he can go play for them. I just don't know if somebody else is going to offer Breece Hall more than $14.2 million. So the Jets feel pretty good about their chances of keeping Breece Hall. That's why they gave him the tag to pay him that. I don't know. There are teams out there that I think would be willing to at least consider it, but that's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money to pay a running back. And in today's NFL, I don't know if Breece Hall is worth that percentage of your cap to go and give that up for Breece Hall. So I think that's a little bit of a question mark as to what happens next with him. I think he probably plays for the Jets. I think he's probably going to be there to do that. I'm really curious to see what happens in Cincinnati. The Bengals are not going to tag Trey Hendrickson, so he's a free agent. I think if you're the Cowboys, would you rather trade for Crosby or sign Hendrickson? I think signing Hendrickson is going to be seen as a better move because there's no draft capital you got to give up to go and get him. But Crosby's younger and a more effective player in a lot of ways. Hendrickson's injury last year really, that's a worry for how he comes back. At 31 years of age, I mean, he's had back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. He's a tremendous player. I'm not going to knock him by any means, but I'm really curious to see how this all plays out, because if you're a fan of a team that has, the Bears retiring out of nowhere at 27 years of age was wild yesterday too. That was somewhat surprising, but I think you're going to see more of that as the years go on. Guys have made their money. They made their money in college. They make their money in the pros. They don't need to play till they're 33 years old and get their heads kicked in anymore. I don't think that they feel like that's something they have to do anymore. So that was somewhat surprising to see that go down. All right, let's jump down the rabbit hole. I want to talk about Miami of Ohio because I did some research on teams that have gone 30-0 and what they've done in the dance. It is time to jump down the rabbit hole thanks to our friends at Rabbet. You guys can go and download the app and the Google Play or the Apple Store. The 5 free Rabbet cash is given to you when you sign up at Rabbet using the code Rabbet5. What is Rabbet? It's the first true peer-to-peer marketplace. And I can tell you right now, if you are somebody who loves to talk trash during the NCAA tournament, this is the app for you to be able to set up your own markets. When one of your friends starts to run his mouth about something about some team that you like and he doesn't, this is a great place to go and set it up. You guys don't pay the juice of a sports book. You can set the number, set the line, and set the bet at Rabbet, and you can roll with it. This is a perfect time to use this during the NCAA tournament. If you're sitting at a bar and someone starts running their mouth about some crazy situation and some crazy number, great chance to go ahead and jump on it and get involved. My team is going to go farther than your team. Really? I don't believe so. Let's bet it. Set the number. Go ahead and bet it. It's a perfect way to use the app to create your own marketplace with Rabbet. Download the Rabbet app and use the code Rabbet5 for 5 free Rabbet cash. Let's talk about Miami of Ohio. Okay. Miami of Ohio is 30-0. What do you do with this season for Miami of Ohio and what they have accomplished so far this year? Because it's remarkable, right? They have won every game they have played. 30 up, 30 down. They beat Toledo last night to extend the streak to 30 games. So I was curious, what does a team with 30 wins look like? A 30-win regular season. What do they look like come the NCAA tournament? So I asked ChatGPT this. So this is wrong, blame ChatGPT, but this is what they came up with when I asked them. I asked the AI about this. And a very small number of teams in the modern 1985 expansion era NCAA tournament have gone 30-0 entering the regular season, entering the tournament. UNLV did it in 1991, went 30-0 and lost to Duke in the Final Four championship game. Kentucky, I guess it was Final Four, right? Yeah, it was a Final Four year for that. Then they won it all the next year. Kentucky, 2015, 31-0 entering the tournament. They lost in the Final Four. Gonzaga, the latest team to go 30-0 before the NCAA tournament began. They went 26-0 in the pandemic season, undefeated regular season, equivalent of 30-0, lost in the national championship game to Baylor. 30-0 in the NCAA tournament, combined overall record of 10-2. But those are unique situations. Gonzaga during the pandemic, UNLV was a long time ago. We haven't seen that many teams go 30-0 in the regular season. But there might be a betting angle for Miami of Ohio that we can take a look at, because this is interesting. Look at this. So here's the record of teams and what they have done when they've run out to 30-0 records or more overall. Okay. Gonzaga in 21 was a 1 seed. They won and covered. This is the first round game. What happens with the first round game? Wichita State in 2014, they were 34-0. They were a 1 seed. They won, but they did not cover against Cal Poly. UNLV in 91, 34-0. They won and covered in their first game against Montana. Butler in 2003, they were 26-4, but they were nearly perfect in the Valley, in the MVC. They were a 12 seed. They won and covered. And in 2004, St. Joe's with Phil Martelli, they were 27-0. They were a 1 seed. They won and covered against Liberty. In the first game, teams that have had an unbelievable run in their first game of the tournament, 10-3 straight up, 9-6 against the spread. But if they were an underdog, 6-2 ATS for teams that have had great regular seasons who then are dogs. By the latest bracketology, Miami of Ohio is going to be a 9 seed. They're going to be a 9 seed. Okay. So Jimmy Football's asking me, what seed are we? Okay. Miami of Ohio. They're going to be an 8 or a 9 as of right now, as long as they win the MAC. And most likely they're going to win the MAC. Okay. So they win the MAC. Miami of Ohio is going to be an 8 or a 9. Are they going to be a dog? Maybe. Yeah, it's possible. Are they worth a bet? Well, by that number, the answer would be yes. By that number, that would be a yes. First round game as a dog, 6-2 ATS. So as a 9 seed, I saw a projection this morning that has them in the 8-9 game in the same pod in Greenville, South Carolina, as Duke as the 1 seed in the South, which is like, come on. You're going to put Miami of Ohio up against Duke in the second round. That is the same as what happened to Northern Iowa when they beat the number 1 seed overall in Kansas in Oklahoma City. That's the same situation. Now, it worked out well for Northern Iowa. Could it work out well for Miami of Ohio? I don't know. We'll see. But that is in Greenville. KU in Oklahoma City was easier to play. Playing Duke in Greenville is like, get out of here. That's a home game. OKC, it was mostly Kansas fans, but it wasn't like an overwhelming, it wasn't like Fog Allen South or Fog Allen, I guess South or Southeast. It wasn't like that. You put Duke in Greenville, South Carolina. Yeah, that's a really tough. That's really tough. Like, I don't think that's going to work. That's going to be bad for Miami of Ohio. Maybe they get an 8. Maybe they get a 7. Maybe the committee feels like, I can't tell you the number of times from a mid-major standpoint that when you're watching that bracket get unveiled, everyone is saying, please no 8-9, please no 8-9. It's the worst seed to get as a mid-major because you know who is sitting there in round 2. I have long made the case that winning the NCAA, getting to the Final Four for a mid-major is the Sweet 16. If you can win 2 games and get to the second weekend, that's the mid-major equivalent of a power conference team making the Final Four. It's so damn hard to win the second game. I watched the Creighton Blue Jays with Doug McDermott in both years play North Carolina and Duke in North Carolina both times. And that's just not fair to play Duke in North Carolina as an 8-9 seed. Just, you couldn't do anything about it. That's the game. I forget what the year was, but that was when Grant Gibbs is currently on the staff for the OKC Thunder. Grant Gibbs hurt. And if Ian Lights Out is in the chat, I think he'll be able to tell me which game this is. North Carolina, one of their star players got hurt by Grant Gibbs, and Carolina fans decided that they were going to make every Creighton fan and every Creighton player's life a living hell by going after them online and I was on the team bus. I remember I was on a bus with the Creighton Blue Jays after the game was over in North Carolina, heading back. I forget where we were going, but it was bad. I mean, like, Carolina fans were like really, really mad because they thought their national championship hopes had gone down the tubes, and they were blaming they were blaming Grant Gibbs, and they were blaming Creighton for the loss, or for the loss of the player. And then I think they lost in either the Elite Eight or the Final Four, and it brought it all back up again. And every Carolina fan felt like the Creighton Blue Jays were the reason why they didn't win the championship that year. I forget the year that happened, but 8-9 is brutal. It's just, for Miami of Ohio, get the 7. I've said this a long. I'd rather be a 10 seed. To be 8-9 is no good. I'd rather be a 10 seed. Like, give me a 10. Let me play a 7 seed as a 10 seed, and let me avoid having to play a number 1 seed and having a chance to go and play. Because as a 10 seed, I feel like I can beat the 7. I feel like that's possible. There's not that big of a difference between 10-7, 8-9, 10-7, but 8-9 is brutal. 2012. Probably somewhere in that range for the Creighton game against North Carolina. It was Doug's senior year, I believe, or it was it was either senior or junior year for Doug. But I think it was his senior year because it was the year he won the National Player of the Year award. So I think it was his. Oh, Kendall Marshall. There it is. I knew you would know that. See, I knew Lights Out. Ian Lights Out would know the answer. Yes, that was the Kendall Marshall Grant Gibbs situation, which still gets talked about even today. We were even what are we? It was 2012. It's 14 years later. We're still. I knew Carolina fans would still be pissed off 14 years later about that game. I was there for that. I was there for that game. I was covering Creighton during that game, and it was crazy. It was. Grant didn't do it on purpose, but yeah, the wink seen around the world. He did wink. That is true. He did wink, but saying he didn't do it I've talked to Grant. He didn't do it on purpose, but go look up that video on YouTube. It's a pretty fun video to watch between Carolina and Duke, but like between Creighton and Carolina. But if you are looking at a Miami, Ohio run, get them to be a 10 seed, like get in as a 10 or a 7. 8-9 is death. Playing Duke in Greenville is forget it. Like, just absolutely forgiven. I'm glad you've forgiven Grant Gibbs for that. Grant's a really good dude. And Grant is now an NBA champion on the coaching staff for the OKC Thunder. So he now has a ring, which is pretty cool for where he coached overseas. He came back. He was the head coach of their G League team. And then he got a spot on the big bench last year. And then they went and won the national championship, or no, sorry, the NBA title rather for the NBA. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Miami. I am. And also on Selection Sunday, where they get seated. Let's talk news of the industry. A survey is out about the activity of underage gamblers. So news of the industry, a new survey is out about how many people are betting before they turn 21. This should surprise nobody. It doesn't surprise me. I've been on the record and told you guys my first bet was made when I was 18, and my first horse race bet was made when I was 10. The survey was conducted by the Harris Poll in late February on behalf of the National Council of Problem Gambling. It found that 33% of respondents aged 21 to 44 had placed a sports bet before turning 21, which is the legal age in most states. Not New Hampshire. It's 18 in New Hampshire. Only 11% of respondents 55 or older said they placed a bet before turning 21. Overall, approximately 65% of adults said they had participated in gambling-like activities before they turned 21, including lottery or scratch-off tickets. Like, are you serious? Games at home with friends or family for money, sports bets, online casino-style games, and fantasy sports. Among the 2,000 plus adults surveyed, 79% considered gambling addiction to be as serious or more serious than alcohol, drug, or other addictions, and 66% said they were more they had ever been asked about gambling habits by a primary care provider. So is this now, are they advocating this, that when you go to your doctor's going to ask you, are you an addicted gambler? Probably not a bad idea, right? To at least start the conversation with people. But this has always been my worry, issue, and problem when it comes to surveys like this and people who are on the gambling is bad side of the coin. We gamble every day by getting into a car and driving the car. We gamble every day by getting on a plane and flying on a plane. Life is a gamble. Everything about life. Telling the guy that you love them is a gamble. Asking the girl out, asking the guy out is a gamble. We gamble every March by filling out brackets and putting $20 down. We play in house poker games with our buddies all the time. It's the same thing when people talk about if you have one sip of alcohol, you're going to wind up in the gutter in the back alley behind a bar sipping some $2 bottle because you need a fix. It's the same people that claim that by smoking a joint, you're going to wind up with a needle in your arm doing heroin. Like, they don't equate in my mind. They don't exist. My grandfather gave me scratch tickets every Christmas. His gift to us was $100 bill. He would say, here's a C note and a gift and a play. My grandfather took me to Rockingham Park to make my first ever bet in my life. I went and picked a pony that lost. I'm now in sports gambling, and I would not consider myself to be a problem gambler. I would not consider myself to have a problem. I've told you guys this before. I'm pretty strict with how I gamble and the money in which I gamble. I'm pretty conservative. I could bet way more than I do. I could have way more of a bigger bankroll than I have currently. And it's because I have my certain money that I gamble with. And if that money ever went away, my life and my daughter's life wouldn't change for a millisecond. Not a blip. Because this is about having fun. And I think when I read this, and I read lottery tickets, scratch-off tickets, games at home with friends or family for money, sports bets, online casino-style games, and fantasy sports, all being linked into gambling-like activities, doing it before you turn 21. Well, no shit. Like, are you kidding me? Of course we've done these things. This is just part of who we are. Like, we're not the Amish. Like, I like the internet. I like electricity. Like, I feel like there's such a disconnect between what people really do and people who are on the side of, like, if you play the lottery, you're going to wind up turning tricks for that ticket down the road. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, the overreaction that we have. And so, are we trying to say that doctors need to talk to kids about gambling? Okay, sure. I think parents need to talk to kids about gambling. Forget your doctor. Your parents need to be talking to your kids about gambling. Is sports betting something that could get you into trouble? Of course it is. Yes, you should be talking to your son or your daughter about gambling. All acts of gambling. All of it. Keno. Any type of, you should do it all. I mean, I don't understand, in my opinion, I don't understand the pearl clutching that goes on. Do kids under 21 sports bet? Yes. Do they do it illegally and legally? I just told you New Hampshire is 18. You can sports bet with DraftKings in New Hampshire at the age of 18. So if I travel to New Hampshire from Massachusetts and I place a bet, and then somebody from this research company from the Harris poll calls me and says, have you placed a bet sports gambling wise before 21? Yes. You didn't ask me if it was illegal or not. You just asked me, did I place a sports bet before I turned 21? Well, I did it legally because in New Hampshire, it's legal to sports gamble at 18. So like, that's my issue with all of these things. That's my problem when I watch these surveys come out. It's a lot of people who are trying to push agendas that I don't think the average person ever comes across or has a problem with. Again, I'm such a big believer in letting adults do adult things. And just because one or two people have a problem with it doesn't mean nobody else should be allowed to do it. And people want to do it, so let them do it. Again, I'm on the minority when it comes to hard drugs. I get it. I'm on the fringe, but I legalize everything. I legalize and police, tax, and control everything. Any substance, I let the government control it all. And I legalize it all. And I change the world. I change the black market. I change what happens in Mexico. I look, even fentanyl, which is super potent, super dangerous, okay? If we had the ability to control that by legalization and then dictating who gets to do it and have it, and then trying to find ways of, if people want it, they can get it, but they get it clean. They get it without having any problems. They get it for a certain price. No one's committing crimes to go and get it. Can it kill you? Yes. But guess what else can kill you? Alcohol can kill you. We sell drugs all the time that can kill you. So I just have this whole thing about where we are as a society in terms of what we consider to be dangerous and what we consider not to be dangerous. Like, again, if I go play the lottery, does that mean I'm going to go and take my entire bank account and go bet it on a game? Like, the equivalency like, it's just, if my 16-year-old son is sitting at home and we have a bracket contest with our whole family and he wins $200 and he gets that itch and like, oh my God, this is so fun. I get to go ahead and bet on sports. Does that mean that kid turns into somebody who all of a sudden is calling a 1-800 number or getting admitted to rehab? Does it happen? Yes, but it doesn't happen for everyone. So these surveys are done and the headlines get put up, right? The headlines, 1 in 3 young adults bet on sports before turning 21. That's the ESPN. And I love David Purdom. He's a friend of the program. I love him. I'm not trying to point anything out. He's doing a story because it's a story. But this headline and the fact that this was even conducted, the way that it gets pushed out about sports gambling in the age and what happened in sports gambling. Again, I made my first bet when I was 10. I made my first sports bet when I was 18 with a bookie on campus at UMass. Like, I had a bookie for all 4 years at UMass. It was simple. I knew, Tuesdays was collect and Tuesdays was payday. That's what it was. Every Tuesday, knock on the door, right? Or I went and by the time I left campus, it was just meet me at the Starbucks on a Tuesday. We'd stop by and we'd, do our business. Did that lead me to this career? Yeah. So I would say there's a benefit to that. But I also don't believe I know when to stop. I do. I think most people do. Most people, and if 95% of the people who bet on sports don't have problems, let's make sure that the 5% get help. Let's make sure that there are avenues for them to get help. The same way we do with alcohol, the same way we do with any other substance, sex, food, whatever it might be. Addictions come in all form and sizes. Kids are getting addicted to online stuff, right? Kids are getting addicted to talking to ChatGPT and to their AI friends, right? There's all these different addictions that run around, and we can't make everything illegal because some people have a problem with it. And the age of consent to gamble is an arbitrary number, okay? Because in New Hampshire, I would go and do surveys. If I was looking to find a real, young people shouldn't be betting, why don't you go to New Hampshire and go and talk to the number of people up there and see if there's an epidemic of young men going bankrupt betting on sports? I don't know. Maybe there is. I don't know. But that state's 18. And so we're worried about 21 when we have a state that is DraftKings and the lottery. That's their monopoly that they have created. And the law is 18 in the live free or die state. Are we having an epidemic up there? Because if we're not, this survey is bullshit. Okay? If you go up there and do that survey and realize what it is, this survey is nonsense. It's not about age. It's about maturity and understanding what you're doing and being aware. Not about the age in which you start doing it or do it first, like this survey is trying to make it out to be. If you guys are watching live, bets on the other side. Favorite thing about today in bonus time. If you're watching on the replay on Sports Grid, thank you for being here. Tomorrow, we'll talk to Adam Bjorn. Where in the world will Adam Bjorn be? We'll jump down the counter with Adam and take a look at what's happening for the World Baseball Classic and more coming up with him on a BetCris Arizona Thursday. Looking forward to that. Wednesday, heads on over to bonus time here. It's BvB being presented by BetCris Arizona. Stick around if you are live. Solitaire on any Windows device. Can you play solitaire for money? Can you do that? I've never done it, but can you? Can you play solitaire for money? That'd be cool. If you could do that. I'm down with it. What a fun game that was in the beginning. Just a kill time. When Windows first came out with solitaire, I'm sounding like an old man because I am. I'm 48 years old. But like when solitaire first came out on like every Windows device, how many hours did we do that? How many hours did we burn to do that? To jump in on that. Oh, good comment from the real GOAT, St. Louis Ray on Twitter. Conference tournaments are the last chance to bet against bad teams. That's true. It's the last time, really bad teams. It's the last time that a really good team, 1 seed team, will face a really bad team. Although a 1-16 game, historically, you could say that. Like Stephen A. Smith knows. He'll never live that down, ever. Playing solitaire on his phone, NBA Finals game. Like, what are you doing, dude? Can't do that. Can't get caught doing that. Let's make some bets. The Just a Pick segment being brought to you by our friends at the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet, Betting Pros' own. You guys can go check out the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet by downloading the Betting Pros app or going to bettingpros.com/NBA props. Check out what's happening tonight in the NBA. These numbers may have moved since I bet them, just FYI, but I am laying the 6.5 with Arkansas. I don't like Texas's defense. It's senior night tonight for Arkansas. I think the Hogs get out and push tempo here tonight. I think we're in for a back and forth, high-flying, high-scoring game, but I don't like Texas's defense to stop Arkansas, and I like the way that Arkansas has played recently. I think they show out here. I'm not a huge fan of this Texas team. They were hot a couple weeks ago, and they since have cooled off. I'm going to lay the 6.5 points. KenPom has this as a 6-point win for Arkansas. I laid the 6.5. I think it's up to 7.5 right now. Let me see. Hold on. Let me pull up the latest number for this game tonight. This number is now it's 7.5 now. I got 6.5. It's 7 at some, although BetMGM still at 6.5. So there is, and Hard Rock Bet. So you have 2 books that are at 6.5 for that. The market has gone against me for the next bet. I like the over. Now, I liked the over last night for Alabama and their game on the road. Bama was against Georgia. And the market moved against me and the game flew over. The market is moving against me again here with Arkansas and Texas. Let's see. You can get 163.5 right now for Arkansas and Texas. There's a 164.5 at BetMGM. FanDuel is at 164.5, but Circa's at 163.5. It opened at 165.5. Superbook's at 163.5. South Point equally 163.5. There are 164s out there, but the professionals are playing the under for Texas and Arkansas. I disagree. Tempo, pace of play. I like offense tonight. I think this is going to be an up and down game between Texas and Arkansas. I'm playing the over. You can get 163.5. You can get a better number for me. Over 165.5. I got one play in the NBA. Let me see where that number has gone. Boston is taking on the Charlotte Hornets tonight. This number is now at 214 or 214 and a half. I like the under 215 for Boston and Charlotte. Boston's been a dead under team for most of the year. Defensively, they've been so good. They're now laying 7 points here in this game against Charlotte. I don't mind that, but that's a little bit of a heavier number. If I was going to bet it, I probably would take Charlotte plus the points because I do think they play Boston tough and they've been red hot. They've been absolutely red hot. So I think the under is the best play in the game. We're going to go under 215 and a half for Boston and for Charlotte here for tonight. The SEC is an overrated league all season. Well, let's see how we end up, because there's some chances here for the SEC to make some pretty big noise. And the Irish is claiming that the SEC is overrated. So what happens if Kentucky gets hot? Like, just what if? Well, what if Kentucky gets red hot and they play up to their abilities? What happens if Arkansas gets a really favorable draw? What happens if Alabama is a high seed? What if they win? Because I can tell you right now, Florida, is an over league, not overrated. SEC is an over league. Excuse me. I read that too fast. Thank you so much. Thank. Okay. My bad. You mean they don't play defense? Yes. Because, but I mean, to the point, I have seen a lot of people talk about the SEC being overrated. The defending champion is in the conference. Okay. And Florida could very well look to go back to back. I mean, I think Florida, I like them going into the season a lot. As I've talked about, their size is really difficult to deal with. And so I think there's an opportunity to see how this plays out for Florida in the SEC tournament, but they're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 teams and maybe 9 teams in the dance. So we'll have a chance to find out. I'm an SEC guy, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think Florida's bigs are going to dominate. They have so far down the stretch. They have in February. They have dominated. They've been absolutely tremendous. Been tough to deal with, tough to guard. They're 15-2 in conference, 24-6 overall. They've won 10 straight games. I do not want to play Florida in any capacity, in anywhere, any place, any gym. I'm not playing. I don't want to play Florida. They've just been killing people. Their final scores. If you go, let's see, 108-74, 111-77, 84-71, 94-75. That's the last 4 games for Florida. They're just killing people. Right now, they're taking people apart. So, time for favorite thing about today. All right, favorite thing about today. It's March. It's March, and I watched UNLV last night take apart Utah State. We are into the part of the schedule now where we're talking about senior days. Arkansas tonight, senior day. You have a lot of emotion in these buildings. We have conference tournaments starting. The real, tomorrow, Missouri Valley, the conference tournament begins tomorrow. While we're on the air tomorrow for a BetCris Thursday with Adam Bjorn, we will be watching the first games of Arch Madness. The tournament I have been to the most in my life is Arch Madness. I went to 7 of them, I think is what I went to in totality, to St. Louis. I love the city of St. Louis. I love the venue. I love the games. I love the Valley. And the Valley, I think it's going to be an awesome tournament this year starting. I can't wait to see what happens with Belmont. But these games open up. And so we've got some, bad basketball to watch, but who cares? It's basketball during the day. I love this time of the year. It makes, I know some people are bored by it. I know it's not the most exciting of topics. NFL free agency trumps this all the time because it's NFL football. But I think people who love sports and love sports stories, this is such a fun month. The next month between now until we get to Indianapolis for the Final Four, I just think it's awesome. It's so fun to bet it. It's so fun to watch it. It's so fun to be a part of it. It's going to be awesome. Tomorrow, ND, we will talk about it. there's a FanDuel DraftKings boost for Team USA. I will talk about the World Baseball Classic tomorrow with Adam about what they're seeing from a total perspective, what they're seeing from a action perspective. I'm excited for the World Baseball Classic, but I don't really think I'm going to bet much on it. I want to watch it, but I don't think I've got like a huge edge as to what to bet. It's more, I think it's a watch for me more than a bet on this, but I think it's going to be fun. They play tomorrow, right? World Baseball Classic plays tomorrow for Team USA. I think the games play, let me see. Okay, so tonight, Chinese Taipei plays Australia tonight, FS1, 7 p.m. Then tomorrow at 2 a.m. Pacific time, so 5 a.m. Eastern, Chechnya plays Korea. And then tomorrow night, Australia plays Chechnya. On Friday is when everyone gets going. USA plays Brazil at 5 o'clock on Fox, Big Fox. Mexico plays at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. So 1 p.m. Eastern time between Great Britain and Mexico. Panama and Cuba is the game of the day on Friday. That's a Fox Sports 1 game. That's at 8 a.m. Pacific time. These games these are all local times. And then 11 a.m. Eastern for Cuba and Panama. That's going to be an awesome game. And then Japan and Chinese Taipei, they play Puerto Rico, Colombia at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. That's an awesome game. So I want to watch these games. I'm just not so sure I'm going to be betting these games as to how it goes down for the World Baseball Classic. But good to have meaningful baseball during March. That's awesome to watch and see. And after what happened with the Olympics for Team USA, men's and women's gold for hockey, people are going to be jacked to watch Team USA and cheer on the Americans. And the American team is good. I mean, it's really good. You got Tariq Skubal. Anytime you got Skubal going, you got a shot to win a bunch of games in a tournament. So BetCris Arizona Thursday tomorrow. We'll talk to Adam Bjorn coming up. Thanks to BetCris Arizona for being the presenting sponsor of the Bostonian versus the Book. My name is Matt Perrault. Back tomorrow for Thursday's episode at 1 p.m. for the next episode of BvB.